Cloudflare continuing to glitch and have outages. Is it like the second, third one in a few weeks?
I have a friend who actually runs a company in quantum computing and, just tell me, just please help me understand what it is.
So I started coding when I was 9. I got a book that was called Teach Yourself C in 21 days. Took me a bit longer than that, but I got there.
Trust beats control every time. So actually, letting go a little bit and trusting your team to do the great work, just like your leader used to trust you.
What is that? There's like a vase and a funnel, a dinosaur skull. Welcome everyone to episode 2 of season 2 of the CTO Lens. We are delighted that you have joined us again this week. We've got a few really interesting topics to talk you through. David, how are you? How's your week been?
I mean, it's only Tuesday. I'm knackered, Sophie. Right? This glamorous globe-trotting CTO bollocks is not all it's cracked up to be, I can tell you. I'm in lovely, I'd like to say sunny, but it's not. It's actually stormy Ireland at the moment, just a few miles north of Dublin. I'm here doing one of my roles that I have, my fractional roles for a lovely company called Water Wipes, which manufacture wet wipes. It does exactly what it says on the tin, helping them to scale for the future and looking at their IT, how IT enables their business growth. So that's very exciting. I'm energized about that. But I came in on a plane this morning that was going like this. And, I've been up since the crack of dawn and stuff like that. And I've been so busy back to back. I haven't actually got any food for this evening. And so I'm now doing this podcast, and then I've got to go out and do shopping. And then I've got to go to a little Airbnb and then do it all again tomorrow and then stuff. I'm just painting the picture of like, it's not all glamour out there. Right. And now to annoy me, tell me what you've been doing so far this week. So
I will do. And I think maybe, I don't know if the podcast budget can stretch to sending you a delivery so that you can shuffle back to your Airbnb and not have to worry about buying yourself dinner.
That would be very nice.
I've been on the sort of other side of glamorous global travel. I've been in Mexico, which was great fun. I came in on a plane today and it was doing the kind of wobbly thing. And so I've been eating mole and drinking mezcal, and Mexico is a very artistic country, so we've been enjoying lots of art. But we did this sort of temazcal ceremony where you go into a pizza oven, you are the human pizza. And you can probably hear, I managed to lose my voice. I lost my voice for 3 whole days. And I'm just coming off of the back of it. So you have, it is me for anyone who's not watching and is just listening, but sounding a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely. But, that sounds good. Pizza oven, that's like, that's got to be quite relaxing and good for the soul, one would imagine.
I think good for the soul, not so good for the lungs, but, it's all an experience.
My Airbnb's quite warm, actually. I haven't really worked out how to turn the radiator down, so that'll be a bit like a pizza oven later on. Let's get into what's been going on this week, other than for you and I. So, in the news, I don't think we've got lots and lots to go too deeply into, but there's a few things that have been happening. A couple of quick annoyances. Cloudflare continuing to glitch and have outages. Is it like the second, third one in a few weeks? It's like, come on, get your act together. I have empathy because, there, but by the grace of whoever goes, all of us technology leaders, we've all had challenges and outages, and, their CTO and CEO must be like really kind of a bit whatever. But at the same time, this is your business, guys. This is the foundation. You're basically running the internet at a security level. Get it together, no?
Yeah, it is tricky, and you kind of have empathy because where this one came from, I've read, is that it's a response to a really significant security vulnerability, which is absolutely what we want to be responding to these things. So as you say, it's doing the right thing. It's ended up in the wrong place, and if you have a number of instances over a number of weeks, people start to go, come on, what's going on here? So yeah, I think it's a bit of a challenge for them, I imagine, at the moment. Everyone wants to kind of move away from this concentration risk, which doesn't work particularly well if you're a business and you want to continue to grow and scale.
Yeah. So I feel sorry for them, but come on, you got to get your act together there. What else has been going on? So there's something which this is one of those subjects where I'm like, I always steer clear of, but it's in the news. The UK and Germany have signed a £14 million quantum deal. And I quote, quantum technology will revolutionise fields such as cybersecurity, drug discovery, medical imaging, and much more. And international collaboration is crucial to unlocking these benefits, said our Science Minister, Lord Valiant. I mean, really, I still haven't worked out what quantum computing's for, right? It's not hitting up my, AI I can just about handle, but quantum computing, how's it going to impact me? Why do I need to consider this? Why do I care that Germany and the UK have invested £40 million in it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm still working out why Germany specifically, unless it's just we want to do quantum computing because it sounds exciting and hey, Germany was interested. It is complicated, right? I have a friend who actually runs a company in quantum computing, and you have a few drinks and you go, Jeremy, just tell me, just please help me understand what it is. And he starts talking about particles of light and superposition, and you're a few beers down, but you're lost pretty quickly. I mean, my read on this one is that it's more powerful computing, right? So when we get to these really, really big challenges of, computational discovery of drugs, there's a lot of opportunity in the medical space, cybersecurity, possible economic growth. Is it a new sector? But actually, is it something that it's more hype than anything else at the moment? These technologies are physically very, very fragile, and, kind of building technologies in a way that is sustainable and scales, I think it's really going to be a challenge. So I think for me, this is something I'm kind of keeping it at bay a little bit until we have, a little bit more stability in the growth of quantum.
Okay, let's solve that problem. We're going to get your mate Jeremy on. He's going to come and nail it. What the hell is quantum computing all about, and why do we actually need it in our lives? Let's do that in a future session for sure. Then we'll know what we're talking about, and we can pretend that we're more knowledgeable than I just came across as. But here's something that I'm on the front foot with, definitely, right? So Meta, not the metaverse, because that again was like, what are you doing? What's going on there? I don't understand that, But they're shifting some of their investment. This is Meta, Facebook as we know and love them, to AI smart glasses. Now, I'm all over this like a rash. I wear glasses, as you can see, and I'm just waiting to get some decent looking Meta Smart AI glasses so that when I walk into a room and I've forgotten somebody's name, it scans them and tells me who the hell they are. That's all I want them for, Sophie. It's old man
Amazing.
world out here. I just want them to jog my fading memory. That's what I want them for. What do you think?
I think it's fantastic. I'm well beyond 50% of times when I walk into a room, I go, why am I here? So I would absolutely love it as well. And I think to your point, they're investing in smart glasses, and the cost of that is they're divesting from the metaverse, which, as you say, who's the metaverse? Like, what's the metaverse? Was this ever really going to be a thing? So I think it's really exciting. I think for me, it's all about the use case, because the investment in AI glasses, it's part of a broader investment in wearables. And there was the big story from a number of years ago from the neurotechnology world, sort of the purchase of Control Labs, which was basically a wristband that you could wear and you could kind of pretend to type in the air and it types out your message. Amazing. That launched earlier this year, and everyone went, what do we use it for? So I think for me, it's such exciting technologies. We've got to make sure that there's a killer use case. As you say, is it walk into a room and who was this person?
Yeah. But the only fear I have is that I'm going to get had up for excessive flirting, because I think it's got wink functionality in it, and I'll be like, to get it to do something, and I'm going to get in trouble, aren't I? From people going, is he winking at me? Is he? What's that? Yeah, I've got to watch out for that one. Okay. But with all this AI fabulousness floating around, there might be a little bit of a backlash. I think, we're not talking about the bubble bursting. We touched on that before, but actually, the sheer power of processing power, computational energy, et cetera, that's needed. We're hearing that some of the environmental groups are sort of kicking up a little bit of a fuss and saying, really, another data center? Are we really building another data center here? And I'm sort of like, I don't know, there's a bit of me that I don't quite have the statistics, and the news feed I read on this didn't really talk about it. It just said it's going to be an environmental. I want to know the sort of ratios, right? What does a data center? This would be interesting. Maybe one of our listeners could ping and put a comment on the podcast, right? What is a new data center, your average size data center? How does the output and energy consumption and carbon blah, blah, blah compare to, I don't know, a car factory or some kind of heavy processing plant which is processing minerals in Uganda, or I don't know, wherever. So I'd like a comparison table here. I never quite know how excited to get about these things, right? And the environmental group will say, well, any more carbon dioxide, any more this, any more that is bad. I agree with that, but yeah, is this something we need to get really worried about? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm exactly aligned with you in terms of what is the scale of the potential damage here? As you say, we're going to say if there's more of something, okay, well, it's bad. We know the more we use these power and water hungry technologies, the more power and water will be sort of consumed in running them. But should we worry about this? Should we worry about something else? And I think it's only when we hear these kind of little tidbits that put it into context, and I'll get the numbers wrong on this one as well, but everyone was saying maybe a year ago, every time you submit a request through ChatGPT, that's 2 bottles of water to cool it down. Or
Yeah.
stories of people when they were Bitcoin mining and they were using that to warm their house. And it starts to put it in context a little bit. But I think, really knowing the scale, the scale of the impact will tell us the scale of the excitement or the scale of the worry.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, for all of our listeners, this is not the place to come for accurate facts. We're all about opinions based on spurious data. That's kind of how we work. So don't be quoting us on any of this. This is just sort of, we read a few news articles and we're giving opinions. That's what we're doing here. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that one about the water. I think we'll see. But again, there is a bit. Maybe I just need to listen to Radio 4 a bit more, and they'll tell me, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, right. So that was mine and Sophie's lackadaisical opinion on what's happening in technology news this week. Hopefully that was useful to some people. Do post if you've got opinions on any of the stuff that we talked about. We'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are as well. When we come back, we're going to be speaking to Hywel Carver from Skiller Whale, asking him about who he is, how he got to be who he is, and who are Skiller Whale, and what's he thinking about at the minute. We're now talking to Hywel, and Hywel is the CEO of Skiller Whale, and we're going to find out a little bit about what Skiller Whale is, what they do, etc., etc. But what's really interesting, and we want to talk to you about, Hywel, is that you used to be a CTO, right? And now you're the CEO. And so we often talk on our podcast about being a CTO, a CIO, a technology leader, and how you engage with other parts of the business, and particularly your CEO. Last week, we were sort of, questions you ask your CEO before you work out whether a business is the right business for you as a technology leader. So it'd be really interesting to hear about your journey from one to the other. And then maybe did your perspective change as you became a CEO? Did you think about technology leadership differently? Were you more sympathetic towards the technology leadership, having been there yourself? Those kind of things would be really interesting. So tell us about your journey a little bit.
Yeah. So how far back shall I go? Shall I start with my interest in technology, or shall I just go from I was a CTO and take it from there?
No, tell us a little bit about, if you've got a passion and a background for technology, tell us that. And if it's boring, Hal, we'll just edit it out. Don't worry.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, great. So I started coding when I was 9. I got a book that was called Teach Yourself C in 21 days. Took me a bit longer than that, but I got there. And then I started writing websites when I was like 13 or 14. The first bit of code I still have is a version of Pong that was written in BASIC, because it would then run on the school computers. So during IT lessons, which in my school was largely about using Microsoft Word, I instead had a playable version of Pong, which like someone was A and Z and someone was K and M, I think. So you control your paddles with the keyboard. Then I studied engineering at Cambridge, and the engineering degree there is very broad. So I did bits of mechanical engineering and medical engineering, but also what I specialized in was like data science, computer engineering, bits of AI, that kind of thing. And then most of my career has actually been being a CTO in small but ambitious startup companies. So a few times I've been a co-founder of those companies, and sometimes I've been a fractional CTO as well. I've done little bits of coaching and mentoring of CTOs in between those. And one of the things that I found is that I was very often giving advice to people in the rest of the exec team in these companies about what ways I thought their role could be improved, or maybe things I'd seen elsewhere that I thought they could apply in their role, or things that would help me as a technology leader to have a better sense of direction, or to prioritize more independently of them. And at some point, I think I just realized that having given people advice and having thought that the CEO role was something I could be influencing and potentially helping a CEO to do better, I should put my job title where my mouth is, and take the role for myself. And that happened when I founded Skiller Well with my two co-founders back in 2018-19.
So Hal, let me just dig into that a little bit. So the tech guy turned up at the C-suite and started telling all the other C-suite how to be better at their job. That was the translation I got there.
I mean, I like to think I was a little more gentle and discreet with it than that, but I certainly, if I thought that we needed more direction from a CEO or that they were making a bad strategic decision, I wouldn't hold back from having a private conversation with them and saying, I think this is wrong and here's why. Like, beyond the remit of being a technologist, I think that the thing that defines the CTO role for me is that is socio-technical but also commercial. I think that for me is what makes a CTO, someone who's thinking about technology and the people who build it, but also is focused on the commercial side of the business that they're in. And honestly, I think if you have informed opinions about that, it's probably a good thing to tell the decision maker what those opinions are, because even if you're wrong, you might be giving them information that they don't have already. And if you are wrong, they might be able to tell you the things you don't know that will probably help you do a better job, make better decisions yourself. I think a lot of goal setting and alignment gets a lot easier when people have very open disagreements about what we should be doing, because then we explain our reasoning to each other and, learn and align ourselves better towards the right course of action.
I think that's great. I think we'll dig into a little bit about the specific differences in a minute, but I think that I think what's great about what you just said is that your first team is the C-suite, right? You're part of that team as a technology leader, and actually, I've always said this, to be a technologist at any level in an organization, you probably got the smarts a little bit, right? Just to get the cerebral learning to get around the complexities of technology. And therefore, everybody else in other parts of the business should give you a chance to understand their part of the business, right? And so I think it's great that you were able to participate so fully, across the executive team.
It sounds as though you've had a lot of exposure to those different roles and positions and a lot of exchange. And I think that's a theme that often comes through at a lot of our London tech leaders events where, we have CTOs coming along and saying, I spent all of my time just having to explain techie things to people who say I'm not techie, and there's a bit of a strange tension. So I'm really interested to find out more about when you made that transition from CTO to CEO. I mean, how did you find that? Was there anything that surprised you? Was there anything that on, day, week, month one, you went, gosh, I'm really good at this, or thought, oh God, I had no idea this was really a part of it and it's a real challenge?
I wouldn't say none of it felt like I was really good at it. I think I felt pretty comfortable in the CTO role, honestly. Not to say it was easy, but I felt like I knew what I needed to do for most of the challenges I faced. I think that changed a lot becoming a CEO. It was a very different role. I think that was immediately clear to me. I've had to care a lot more about accounting and, the movement of cash and things like that, which honestly I needed to worry about a bit as a CTO, but I wasn't really the kind of key decision maker for an overall budget or anything like that. I think the biggest change though is that I feel like as a CEO I have way fewer constraints on me, and I'm not the first person to say this, but paradoxically, having more constraints can be very liberating to a degree, right? If this is the direction that the organization is heading in, and these are the people in my tech organization, and these are the like priorities of the peers around me. It gives you a lot of points to triangulate off, to set a strategy, to work out what to do next. And as a CEO, there's a core bit of that you just don't have. Or at least I don't feel like I've had that very clear top-down direction, because I kind of have to set it. I have to predict where I think the market is going, and like the way that different trends will change things around us, and therefore set what we should be doing, and then not just give that. I mean, I try and be very open with my SLT, my senior leadership team, but give that kind of prediction, be challenged on it, like iterate on it until we explain why I think this is the right direction. And then that becomes the company's direction. But that was not so much there as the CTO. It's often the thing I was asking the CEOs to provide for me. And then when they do, it gives you that North Star in that direction. You don't have to just set it with a blank slate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the metaphor that's often used for the CEO role is you're steering the ship. And then if you put that in context, you've got a wide open sea. That's a real challenge, a lot of different directions you can go in. I mean, and do you have, if you had maybe one piece of advice that you would give to someone making that same transition? I know there are a lot of CTOs in our listener base who might be interested in that. What would you tell yourself if you were to do it again?
I think one thing that has helped me a lot is I have tried hard to learn from peers in every team I've been in. So even peers who I've not got on with well, I can see that there are bits of their role that they've been fantastic at. And so my job is not simply to tell them what I think, to advocate for my views or to try and persuade them of my opinions, but also to be curious about what they think and why they think it, and what they're thinking when they're doing that thing that I think they're very good at. Like, how are they strategizing about it? Which means that even the things that I'm bad at in my role, and believe me, there are plenty of those, I know at least what good looks like. I've seen and understood from people who are really good at those things. And that at least tells me where my weaknesses are, means I can try and do something to fix those. But certainly the remit is broader, right? The people who are reporting to you as a CEO might be doing things that you are utterly terrible at. Whereas typically as a CTO, the people who are reporting to me might well be better than me at areas of their job, but I probably could have a go. I'm pretty good at the kind of work that they are doing normally. That's not universally true, but that's generally, those are people who've kind of come from the same path as I have. Whereas as a CEO, the people who are reporting to you, you might be awful at what they do. And so the position, your position as a boss changes much more from, you're not able to mentor those people in the same way. And I don't think you should expect to. You can instead expect to be dealing with real experts, smart cookies in their own fields. And instead, you're just kind of constantly negotiating between your opinion and your view and theirs. And Andy Grove, in his book, High Performance Management, is that what it's called? High Output Management, talks about nudging a lot. The idea that I might have my idea, but mostly I'm trying to be in receive mode, and I'm like pushing other people towards what seems like the right direction, but always also being open to having that direction changed because you're surrounded by smarts.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Are you tougher on your CTO or more lenient on your CTO, having been in that position?
I hope he would say, and I think he would say, that I'm more lenient than I feel like CEOs have been on me. So I think I have a lot more sympathy for being in that position as a result. Like, I've been the person in those leadership meetings where someone says, "Hey, I've got a great idea for a new initiative, as long as we start it tomorrow." And you think, oh God, no, like there's just no way. We've agreed to all of these things. Do I have to throw that work away? Where your first response is to feel a very strong, no, I really don't want to do that thing you're suggesting.
Right.
Being on the other side of that now, I see it much more. I see why in my role, I'm a lot more free and easy with just throwing ideas out there to see what happens and just be like, hey, I heard about this thing. Like, what are we feeling? What's the vibe? And I always expect any CTO to strongly feel no, because the work of technology is so much based on momentum, on we've built all these things and now we're building another thing that builds on top of those things we've already built. New ideas can threaten that approach and can undermine work that's been done, which is a very valid response to have. I think I'm more sympathetic to the plight of the CTO.
You know what would have been great? is if we'd slid on your CTO at this point and said, what do you think
Yes.
about that? And then done a live sort of performance review of your CEO-ness. That would have been great, right?
It would have been great. Unfortunately, you would have struggled because I'm actually in his house right now, so
Oh,
it would have
yeah,
been hard to
call him.
surprise me
Call him
with his
over
presence.
quick.
I could call him and bring him in.
Let's not put the guy on the spot, poor chap. All right, so listen, thank you for that. Let's just find out a little bit about SkillerWell. What does SkillerWell do?
Yeah, we do learning for tech teams. So we as co-founders were running tech organizations and felt like the existing training options we had were largely quite ineffectual. So we came up with our own approach. From our experience, people learn best, like software developers learn best from experience, from doing things, from ideally making some mistakes and getting feedback from others. And those things generally seem to be missing from most approaches to training. So we came up with an approach largely borrowed from how the Cambridge University supervision system works, actually, that we experienced as undergrads there. We came up with an approach for learning that centers learning by doing, learning by failing, and having an expert human who leads everything so that people can genuinely learn in a way that feels more like learning from peer feedback, like pair programming, that's very kind of targeted for strategic outcomes.
Okay, that sounds great. And do you what about technology leadership? Is that applicable to to SkillerWell's offering?
It absolutely is. So we cover a whole load of technologies and ideas within that. We obviously cover using generative AI in the software development lifecycle because it's the biggest question that a lot of people have right now. And yes, we also cover what we call power skills. I don't like the term soft skills. I think it undersells their value and makes them sound kind
Totally
of
agree.
fluffy. Yeah.
I'm on a
So
mission to eradicate the use of the term soft skills in leadership. It's
what
awful.
Well, I think we are aligned on that mission. We can join forces on that. So I think power skills is a better name to me because I think they are a kind of lever arm on whatever other skills you already have. And that curriculum includes topics within leadership and management and delivery and the people side of the role. But the learning approach is exactly the same. So it's not just being lectured about 43 ways to run a one-to-one meeting. It's about scenarios. It's about how would you advise this person who needs to influence another member of the C-suite? How would you advise this person who's having trouble with their reports or needs to lead this team through this crisis? So it's always about taking an idea and using it in the session with someone who's been there and done that, with a fractional CTO or a coach, someone who is going to give you that feedback and then talk about what the other people in the session have said.
That sounds really good. That sounds like a great approach. I mean, it's not dissimilar in many ways to the sort of coaching that I do when I go into an organization to help a team, with some of their challenges going forward. But I like the way that you can dial into you guys and sort of get you to come up with something that's particular for the organization and work through those different challenges that you just described. I think that's really good and great that you've probably got a bunch of coaches from different parts of life who can format into that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I should say that what we do is very focused on the raw skills, not the sort of situational application. So what we would do is take people who are becoming engineering managers or team leads for the first time, or maybe stepping up into engineering directors, and help them grow the raw skills of leading teams and managing people, but in smaller cohorts. We aren't helping them solve the specific problems in front of them today. We are helping them with the skills that should help solve those problems and many others that are to come.
Amazing.
That is really interesting. Thank you ever so much, Hal, for coming and tell us a little bit about your journey from CTO to CEO. It was really good. Lovely to have you as a guest on the CTO Lens. Thank you.
Not at all. Thanks so much for having me.
So, welcome back. Thank you for sticking around. We are now going to talk about a LinkedIn post. David, you popped something on LinkedIn that was all about moving from engineering to a leadership role. Tell us, what did you put on LinkedIn and what was the response?
So this one was a while back, but it got quite a lot of reaction. So I wrote about, people want to be the CTO. It seems like CTO, CIO, whatever. It seems like the natural kind of, end game that people developing their careers in technology want to go for. And I think I wanted to when I was a bit younger, and I think maybe I went into it thinking, yeah, I'm a good engineer, I'm a good engineering leader, I'll just this is just the next logical step. And then I just realized that actually there's quite a lot of difference. And I put 4 key points on here, which I'll just, quickly outline, which was your impact won't come from the keyboard anymore. Listening becomes your superpower because you have to hear from everybody, understand what's going on. Trust beats control every time. So actually, letting go a little bit and trusting your team to do the great work, just like your leader used to trust you. And then actually your job is people, not problems. And that depends on the scale you are, the scale of your company and all of that kind of stuff. Sometimes you're down in the coding weeds as well. But generally speaking, if you're going to be a CTO, CIO, that's a strategic role for technology leadership in the company. And you've got to let go of a lot of the stuff that actually might have made you sort of the candidate to become that CTO, CIO role. And so just getting used to that is can be really challenging. And this response I got from it was that everybody was just like, yep, this hurt me really bad. I couldn't believe I had to give up my keyboard, all of that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people were like sort of going, and the thing is, they were really resonating with the people bit, right? Your value isn't delivery anymore. Your value is enabling other people to deliver and putting the structure, the finances, the HR, all of that around them to do it. And so you go, if you've grown up, I mean, I was a programmer back in the day, and I grew up through technology, and then one day somebody's going, yeah, that's not what we're asking you to do anymore. We're asking you to lead a bunch of clever people now rather than be the clever person. And there was an element of like mourning, I think, from that. Also, I wasn't a good leader when I started out, right? Maybe I'm not a good leader now, who knows? But I was having to learn as I went, sort of thing. I don't know, maybe Hywel in Killer Whale has got a training course for how to move from engineering leader to CTO. But yeah, that was the challenge for me. I don't know if you've had similar challenges or experienced any technology leaders talking about that, Sophie.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of these themes are they're really relevant, and I think we see this in lots of different sectors. Tech is one of them. Academia, I know, is another one that you have the sort of the best IC, and you go, okay, well they're going to go up the ladder, as if it's a linear thing, and you just get kind of better and better at the same thing you're doing. But actually, often by being so good at something, you get promoted out of the thing you're good at. And as you say, you're almost starting on a different ladder from day one, going, well, I don't have any formal management experience. And so many companies do promote people into management without any, formal or informal training. As you say, this is maybe where companies like Skiller Whale can really offer value. And I think what's interesting is for individuals making that choice, do they want to be a manager? Going back to these kind of points you've mentioned, your impact won't come from your keyboard anymore. Well, one, that's something to learn as a skill, but two, it's a preference, right? Some people prefer having their impact come from their keyboard. Listening becomes your superpower. Some people go, well, I've kind of found the listening thing really challenging, but I know I can offer huge amounts of values as an IC. We had a fantastic person on one of our Women Plus Tech Leaders events who was a principal at IBM, I think. And she sort of said, my job is extremely rare because I'm very senior. I hold a lot of responsibility. I'm extremely well regarded for what I do. But I don't manage anyone. I just focus on the hardest, most interesting problems and I knock them out of the park. So I think this kind of, this opportunity to continue to be an amazing engineer versus moving into a leadership role is something that people should really be aware of. But yeah, I'm personally, love working with people, and so have really enjoyed, as my career has matured, having more opportunity to create impact on a larger scale because I'm working with a wider range of people. As you say, I'm not constrained to the impact that comes from my keyboard, for an example.
I think that's true, and it sounds like you've gone on a bit of this journey. Did you struggle to let go as you matured and grew through that organization and got that higher level of leadership responsibility? Did you sort of think, but I used to be really good at that, so I'm just going to do it myself?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I think for me, that was the biggest challenge. And, and sometimes this happens in life. And, I got married earlier this year, and a lot of that was people saying, what can I do to help? And you say, well, it would actually just take longer for me to explain it to you. I'm going to do it. And you sort of see that trope emerging in the workplace. And I think it comes from a few different places. I think there's the safety of, I know I can do this. I have much more confidence in my ability to do it than in my ability to work with you and get you to a place where you can do it, or even in my trust for you to do it. Maybe you already have those skills. I think there's this other aspect of the kind of dopamine hit you get from the really defined, finite, well-structured tasks that when you move into management, everything's a little bit more nebulous. It's harder to tell if you're doing a good job. You're using different metrics. That's a real challenge. And I think this, being comfortable dropping balls, because when you move into a leadership position, you can't do everything. And a lot of it is about understanding, where is there ROI, investing your time, and where is there not. Whereas when you're an IC, it's really very much about doing all of the things, as many of them as possible, as well as you can. So definitely for me, that was a real kind of tension making that change. And I've spoken to a lot of people who've made that transition who had a similar experience. I mean, it sounds like it might have been similar for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're maybe painting a bad picture. I think what we're saying is go in with your eyes open, expect to have to let go, think about the trust that your previous leaders, assuming they were good leaders, gave you to do your job, and then pass that back down. But then there's this whole, then you sort of, once you relax into that, there's this whole new bunch of experiences and skills which you can build. Yeah. And I think actually I now enjoy being a technology leader more than I ever did being an engineering leader or a delivery manager or a programmer, or and those are things I have left behind, and I'm not sure I was great at those things, and actually I found my place in technology leadership. So my post wasn't designed to put people off. It was designed to say it's different. Go in with your eyes open, and then if it's for you, do your research, find out whether it's for you, talk to other CTOs, CIOs, etc. And if it is for you, then be prepared to go on another learning curve. And that's an interesting thing, right? I mean, there are some young CTOs, of course there are, but chances are if you're going to be a CTO, CIO, senior product leader, or whatever, you've probably got a few years under your belt, right? You're probably skilled in your areas, got some experience, and you probably think that promotion to that C-suite is as a result of the hard work that you've done. But actually, you're not currently qualified to do that, because there's a whole new load of stuff you need to learn. And for me, that was like finding a second sort of wind in my career. It was a complete sort of like, okay, I'm here. I might not know how to do it, and I've got to let go of some of these things that I've relied on in the past. But look at all this stuff that I've got to learn over there. And so, we're never too old to learn, are we? So that was what sort of got me through it, I think.
Absolutely. No, I think it's great. You get to a place where you go, I think I know what I'm doing. And you really need to, at that point, find something where you don't know what you're doing. And that's, where the spice of life comes from, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And then even when you are there, it doesn't like, okay, I made CTO at 35. Now that's it, I'm done. Because there's CTO scale-ups, startups, enterprise, CPTO, all of those different roles, right? The major role that I'm doing now, as I mentioned at the start, is CIO, and it's exclusively CIO. And I have done I've done CTO and CIO joint responsibilities before, but now I'm exclusively focused on making the best enterprise technology we can to support the growth journey of the company I'm working for, right? And that's a very focused thing. And I'm sort of having to double down on my CIO skill set, whereas they were always shared before. And so that feels like, I've got more time, I've got more energy to put into this. So, I'm learning as I go along as well. I think that's great. At my grand old age, Sophie, you can still learn new things. Isn't that nice?
Amazing. Good to hear.
All right. So listen, thanks for that conversation. We'll put the link to that particular post, and you can go and see what all the people said. What I enjoy most about posting on LinkedIn is hearing other people's experiences. I think that's an extension of why we're doing this podcast. We want to hear from you. Sophie and I, we've got our own opinions. We've both been around the block once or twice, but it's always great to hear from other people and get different perspectives. And you never know, we might come back to some of this on a future podcast and hear back from some of you guys on your opinion.
So thanks for that conversation. When we come back in just a moment, do stick with us. We will be playing the beautifully named mid-episode game. Stick around.
So welcome back to the mid-episode game. Luke doesn't like that title, but we're sticking with it because it's great and dry. We welcome the games master once again. Mr. Luke has come to tantalize us with some difficult questions or some quiz or some game that Sophie and I have no idea about. But I'd just like to remind you, in case the Game Master forgets to tell us, that the score currently is David Crawford 1, Sophie Valentine 0. That's the current score, just putting it out there.
Well, David, if you
Okay.
had actually read the doc that we put together, you'd know what the game is about. So maybe you're at a disadvantage there. This week's quiz is called So, welcome to Name the Company. We're going to give you a series of dingbats. If you don't know what a dingbat is, or anyone listening in the audience, it is a selection of photos that make up a word. This week's quiz, the selection of photos make up a famous technology company. So we're going to show you a test question first, and if you two do not get this one, I will be highly concerned. But that one would be
Apple.
Apple.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay,
Because
we're going to
we're
get
looking
into.
at, for the audio listeners, a red apple on the
There we
screen.
go.
A juicy red apple. There you go.
But preferably you describe it before you say it.
Got it. Understood.
Here we go.
I'm with it.
Question 1.
Okay, what have we got? There's like a
Oh.
rainforest and then a rain cloud.
with rains. So forest, jungle,
Forest rain.
jungle rain, Amazon.
Amazon wet
Amazon.
services? No.
Oh, Amazon wet services. I like that.
We'll give the point to Sophie on that one. It was, of course, Amazon Web Services. That was as close as I could get.
Oh, good
1-0.
working out, Sophie.
Ooh.
There we go. Question 2. What do you see? Say what you see. Spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's Databricks.
Yes.
Right,
It's
Sophie.
data and some bricks.
Calm down. Say what you see, Databricks. Oh.
So, nice to see that Sophie isn't as competitive this week, so that's good. But
Yep.
that is 2-0. Question 3.
It's like a microscope and a sponge.
Microsoft.
You're correct, David.
Oh.
And
It's a
look at
soft
that.
sponge, right?
Yes, exactly. Look at that. Great minds think alike. Question 4. Say what you see.
Okay, like a ham and an A.
Hammer.
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 Meta.
Yes, Sophie.
Meta.
There we go.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, these are tenuous.
I mean, you deserve that one, Sophie, because there is no way anybody could get it from this picture.
Yes.
Number 5.
No flake, because I'm looking at a snowflake.
So there we go. 3-2. 3-2 to Sophie still.
Yeah.
Question 6. Say what you see.
A door.
Okay. There's like where's Wally? He's in front of a door and then he opens the door and then there's a robot
with AI on it. So it is OpenAI.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Lovely. He's back in the game, up to 3-3. Maybe that mid-game break has thrown Sophie off.
Set me back. Yeah.
Lost the stride. Yeah.
Question 7.
Okay. Climbing wall and what is that second one?
Yeah,
so there's a kid that's climbing like an indoor climbing wall and he's wearing a helmet and a rope. And then there's a person holding like an L-shaped stick with a ball on the end of it who's also wearing a helmet.
Weight on it. Climb wall.
Climbing boulder stick.
But
you probably want to think about the rope a little bit more in this one.
But safety rope.
Rope bridge.
Rope
climb.
It's a famous tech company, and it's a word to do with rope. I'm sure our listeners have got this.
Word to do with rope.
To do with rope. Synonyms for rope: string, twine.
If you were going rock climbing and you had a rope, what would you try to create?
A safety
tension.
A safety line.
The opposite of Sophie's one.
Slack. Is it slack? Amazing.
That's so random. So random.
We go to an outdoor training camp every year for a bit of leadership training, so that's what sprang to mind with Slack. So you're very well.
Amazing.
I think you did a great job describing that one.
I just want to point out that all of the ropes on the screen are incredibly taut.
Yes.
So,
Well, beggars can't be choosers, David. Anyway, you're still losing. 4-3 to Sophie. Next question. Question 8.
Okay, there's goggles and then there's underwater and then there's a brain. Goggle is is it DeepMind?
Can you do the full company name, please?
Google DeepMind.
Oh.
No,
You
can have it. You can have it.
Stole it away from you.
just to keep things interesting, we'll call it 4-4.
Okay.
But
Okay.
next time we might keep it. We'll give it each person a point. But question 9.
So
Happy New
assign
Year.
it says Happy New Year, and then there's what is that? There's like a vase and a funnel,
and
a
then
dinosaur
old
skull,
old stuff. New
old
old.
stuff like artifacts.
New old.
Year of
New
the
old.
architects.
New old. New old.
New old. New old.
Listeners are screaming at the podcast at this moment, right? They
Remember,
can't even see
it's
it,
a
and they know
major
what it
tech
is.
company.
Yeah.
A clue
Major
for this
tech
one,
company.
they were at the London Tech Leaders Summit. Think about what the...
Facts,
Yeah, like ancient.
historical.
Facts.
Oh, New Relic.
Yes, David.
Oh, very good.
Okay, 5-4. There's no tiebreaker this week, so
What
the
we can
last
do.
question. The
Yeah.
last question counts as 2. That's a new rule I made up on the spot.
Excellent. Well done.
Okay,
Good
perfect.
plan.
There we go. Question 10. Here we go. Final one.
Yeah,
Okay,
got it.
so that there's.
Let's
I'll
describe it.
describe it for our listeners. We've got a lot of people that are like in stands. Maybe
Yeah.
they're like watching something, and then a lightning bolt.
And a lightning bolt.
Stand sap. Sapia? No, David, you know it. Tell it. Take it home.
Crowd strike.
There we go.
Oh, very good. Very good.
So that makes it 7-4 to David in a 10-question game. Don't ask how. But this
Yeah.
week's winner is David.
Thanks, Luke. Thank you.
I can't believe you won again. I had a good lead for the beginning of that.
You were out there. And
I
I
was
thought,
out
you're
there.
seeing these pictures, you're getting them, you're describing them. And I was like, my brain's not catching up. Yeah, I think it all turned when I got Microsponge, which is actually
Microsponge, yeah.
Microsoft. But, Okay, so that was the gaming section for the week. Another good quiz. I'm looking forward to next week's when Sophie, I might, she might just put me to the post next week. We're now going to talk about disaster diaries, our favourite little slot where our listeners write in some of the disasters that they might have had, and we see if we can give any thoughts or intelligence on them. Why don't I read this one out to you this week, Sophie, and you give me your thoughts on it, right? So, a listener's written in and said, I'm the CTO of a rapidly growing SaaS company. Over the last year, our engineering team ballooned from about 40 developers to more than 200. We scaled fast, we shipped fast, and somewhere along the way, our security discipline quietly unraveled. Security reviews became inconsistent, exceptions turned into norms, teams started bypassing guardrails just to hit a deadline. No one meant any harm, everyone was just moving fast. But a few weeks ago, we suffered a breach that exposed customer data and revealed just how much security drift we'd accumulated without noticing. Now the board's involved, customers are asking hard questions, and internally the team is shaken. Developing our product can't stop, but trust in our processes has been damaged. I'm struggling with how to respond in a way that fixes the immediate issues and rebuilds a long-term security culture without swinging too far into bureaucracy or fear-driven engineering. Here's the question. How should I confront a security culture that has quietly decayed during rapid growth? What steps rebuild discipline, trust, and momentum at the same time? What are your thoughts on that? That's a difficult one, right, Sophie?
Yeah, it is. It's a really challenging one, and I think it's probably something that a lot of our listenership identify with. We hear this trope again and again. We could ship brilliantly when we were 40 people, and now we're 200. Why are we shipping less and less? And it seems as though one of the answers is you can ship, more at 200 than at 40 if you sacrifice something. And sacrificing security is not a comfortable position to be in, and particularly when you always have risk, but when there's harm, you have that breach of customer data. It's a real challenge. So I mean, for me, I think as an organization, and I want to hear your thoughts on this as well, David, almost taking a step back and making sure that there's a really intentional reset, and a kind of a reflection of we've got into this position. It's not a position we want to be in. Let's all take stock of that, acknowledge it, and then think about sort of what we want to do. So kind of aligning on that, why are we making a change before we work out what the change is, I think is really, really crucial. Just so you avoid a situation where, if you've got your engineers on the ground and they sort of come in one day and go, oh, we're doing something slightly differently. Do you know why? No, I don't know why. Oh, well, it's fine. We'll just kind of keep on going. You're going to slip back into the same patterns. So I think for me, the first thing would be, take a very intentional reset, acknowledge what's happened, where you've landed, and then build out a plan to get to a healthier place. What's your knee jerk on this one, David?
Yeah, so I definitely think that it needs to be intentional. I'd also say it needs to be more than the IT team, right? So the chances are that whilst the IT team probably and their technology leader should have been a bit more disciplined in explaining that you can't cut all the corners, and that there are some foundations that need to always be there. I think actually the wider business teams who will have been putting on this pressure to, we've funded these technology teams, let's go, let's get more product out there. There needs to be a real ownership and accountability across the business for what risk have we introduced as a result of that. Yeah. And that's often, here's an IT team who have been given some money, they've scaled, they've maybe dropped off on some security, but that was maybe from some pressures to get product out there from the wider business. And now it's the IT problem. It's the IT department's fault, right? They're the ones who cocked up. They're the ones who did it. And of course, there is definitely accountability there. But, as with all things, it's a team pursuit and everybody across the business has to really face into that. So I think it is that reset, but it needs to be company-wide, not just in the IT team. And then from a practical point of view, the question was how do you rebuild trust? I think really making sure that you own that we've got to change stuff. There might be some doubling down, especially if you've had a new team come in, 40 to 200 people. That's a new company, right? That's a complete cultural shift. There's not going to be anybody around who even knew the original code base, sort of thing, let alone all the security protocols that we're putting in place. So I think, part of that reset needs to involve some training, right? I think, you need to make sure that within your squads, if that's how you do that you've got security champions, somebody there who is tasked, perhaps bonused on, making sure that security is an integral part of everything that gets, developed and shipped. And I think just bringing that in as a central core function. Whenever I've been a CTO or a CIO, I've always made sure that one of my direct reports is a CISO or an equivalent security leader. I've always made that really, really important rather than burying them in the corner as the people who just get in the way. Always brought them into the leadership team and made sure that, they really, really, understand and communicate with the rest of the company about the importance. And then my final point on this before I spin back to you is that on the other side, don't go too far. Don't retrench too far back, right? Don't lock everything down. Don't go, oh, we've had a breach. Don't allow that incident to completely suppress your ability to deliver new product innovation fast, right? Take a risk-based approach and discuss those risks at the board level and find out what the company's appetite for risk is. You're never going to be able to protect against every single piece of digital security ever. So you just need to work out what the trade-off is for you as a company. It certainly won't be exposing customer data. Of course it won't. But it might be that you're willing to accommodate some other things and find your natural level. They're my thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to your point, you'll never protect 100% against everything. So understanding where that line lies and not being too reactionary, go, oh God, this thing happened that was really bad. So we need to lock everything down. As you say, you'll stifle innovation. And that's something that particularly, it's a hugely competitive innovation environment nowadays. Companies need to be innovating to survive. So striking a really, really compelling balance. And I think, another thing I've experienced is, kind of gaining buy-in from the boots on the ground, the sort of your engineers who are working and they're building the code base, and you sort of say, well, we're doing the security stuff. And they go, well, maybe that's not so exciting, but being able to connect that back to, okay, what actually is the impact on individuals of a data breach? Creating that kind of empathy, all the way from the C-suite down to your sort of ICs to understand this is why we're doing it and to emotionally connect with that reason, I think is something that will really sort of support buy-in and take it from, well, this is a procedure and something that we have to do. And did I remember to check the box to something that people want to do and they care about and they feel connected with?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. You'll notice that neither your nor my answer said do security better. it's just much more nuanced than that, right? It's much more about the people, company wide and in the team. And security stuff happens. It's almost like a factor of life these days. And I used to think to myself, God, I just whenever you see these headlines about these major, I hope I'm not. I hope that's not me one day. And I always tended to over worry and maybe overcompensate for it with our security, infrastructure and framework. But actually, it's more like, how do you respond when an incident happens as well? So what the listener who wrote in didn't tell us is, like, what did they do when that breach came along, and have they practiced having a breach? For example, that could be another thing, right? Because everybody panics as soon as it's like any incident, right? But a security one with customer data, maybe thinking through that and thinking, well, let's plan for the worst and see what happens.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think there's a
absolutely.
lot of learning in there. A lot of learning. So hopefully that was useful for our listener. Anybody else who's got some disaster diaries that they want Sophie and I to pontificate on, do send them in, and we'll give our best shot. I think that's about it for another week. Sophie, let's just have a think about what we talked about. We had some interesting news points. We were moaning about Cloudflare getting their act together, but feeling a bit sorry for them. We were wondering what quantum actually means for the world, and might find out about that in a future podcast. We're going for the AI meta wearables, which is great. And then we were thinking about, how big an impact is AI going to be on all of this environment. We then spun off into talking to Hal from Skiller Whale, who came along, told us about his journey, unusual for some of us technology leaders, where he became a technology leader, climbed up the ladder to do that, and then transitioned into a CEO, and what that meant for him and how his view was of technology leaders now. And yeah, Skiller Whale are a great company who do coaching and pragmatic training in organizations, so that you can come across all the different challenges. It's untraditional training, I would class it as, but very useful. And you should check those guys out, Skiller Whale. And then Sophie and I talked a little bit about one of my LinkedIn posts about moving from an engineering to a leadership role and the challenges that brought. I think that it was useful to reflect on that, but not just the sort of be ready stuff, but actually the opportunity that gives you once you've made that flip. I certainly found that exciting. Then we had the fabulous mid-episode game, which Sophie really was out to beat me on that one, and but I just almost keep going, Sophie. You'll get there. I'll fall at some point. And then in the disaster diary, we heard about what happens if you don't quite pay enough attention to security in favor of scaling and growing. And I think we talked about that, and hopefully some of that will be useful to our listeners thinking about their own growth journeys in their companies. I think that's it, Sophie. Anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's everything. I think we've covered some well, from my biased perspective, some really interesting ground today. So thank you for sticking around, anyone who's made it this far. If you have your own disaster story, we would love to hear it. So make sure to drop us a note. You can DM myself or David on LinkedIn, or you can email us at partner@londontechleaders.io. We get a lot of really fascinating stories, and yours could be showcased on the podcast, and we promise to be nice. So yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to speaking to you again next week.
And just to keep you coming back, Sophie and I are promising to wear Christmas jumpers next week to get into the full Christmas spirit. So if you want to see us dressed up as silly buggers, do tune in next week. Thanks, Sophie. Speak to you soon.
Thanks, David.